So what we're going to do here is show how to build just a simple application, a simple Hello World application using Zen Framework and Flash and Flex in our IDE. So I'm going to go to my, if I can find it, go to my Zen Studio. What I'm doing is I'm using this with Flash Builder 4. Recently came out. I'm using a trial edition right now. It has a 60-day trial on it. And you can download Flash Builder as an Eclipse plugin. And what that basically means is that you can install Zen Studio for doing your regular PHP development work, but you can install Flash as a plugin, which I think is actually really neat, because if you're going to be doing any kind of remoting between Flash and a server, and PHP happens to be on your server, this will actually give you the ability to work in both environments, only needing one IDE. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. So ZF create project Hello World. Hit enter. And it has completed building it. So what I'm going to do, go to my browser and make sure that it works, and it does. So we've basically got our Zen Framework application. So now what I'm going to do, switch to my Flex perspective. I'm going to right click here, go to new, and choose Flex Project. And I'm going to call it Hello World Flex. I'm going to specify, you have two different types of options here. You can specify to run in the Flash player on a browser, or you can specify that you want to run it on the desktop, which is what I'm going to do. And then you also have the application server here type, which I'm going to select obviously as PHP. Now, when we're going through this, what we need to do is we need to now configure our PHP server. And in order to do that, we need to specify our web root, which is our document root for our individual virtual host, and also the URL, which in this case I set up as demo. I've just modified my hosts file so that it'll point at the local host, and that's how I access it from there. So I click on Validate Configuration, and it says the web root folder and root URL are valid. What that basically means is that it's been able to put a couple of files into the document root and access them using this root URL. After that, we look at this, and this is just some basic Flex setup things, which we're not going to worry about at this time. So we'll click on Finish, and it's going to build out our project. And now we have our Hello World Flex MXML file. What MXML is an XML flavor that allows you to define what your application is actually going to look like. It's kind of like a class definition in PHP. You do have the ability to do fully object-oriented programming in Flex using ActionScript, but what MXML does is it allows you to define a lot of your functionality and also your graphical elements within an XML file. So it's actually, if you can write XML, it's actually relatively easy to use. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to click on Design, wait for it a little bit, and we're going to minimize this because I don't really need to do that right now. So this is our blank canvas, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here for Components, and I'm going to select a label. I'm going to drag it and drop it. I'm going to make it a little bit longer and save it. If I go back to my source, you can actually see how this is actually kind of useful, where I have my label defined, I have my text in there, I have my width, height. It's very similar to HTML, except that we're using the MXML. In this case, we're using Spark, which is another Flex library. So if I run this, what I do is I right click on here, go to Run As. I'm going to run it as a desktop application. Wait a little bit, and you see that that label is there now. So we know that it's up and running, close it, and I'm good. So what I'm going to do actually though is I'm going to remove the text, because what we want to do is take that label and print the date that we're going to be, that the current date is, and we're going to do that using the remoting. So I'm going to give this a ID, and what the ID allows us to do is, just like any other XML ID, it allows us to uniquely identify an individual element within the document as a whole. So I'm going to call it time label or something like that. So that's it, all that we need right now for our Flex application. If we go back now, and if I'll switch perspectives to my Zen Framework perspective, we'll go to our public. You see in here, Hello World Flex and Hello World Flash. So what I am going to do is go into, I believe it, not sure which one it is here, but Hello World Flex. So that's the one I'm going to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on here. I'm going to put a new PHP file, and I'm going to call it time. So I'm going to have a class called time, and it's going to have public function get time, and it's going to return date R. So it's going to return the current date, and I think it's RFC 822 format. Now what I'm going to do, this is just a regular class. Again, very simple. I'm going to go back to my Flash perspective, and now I'm going to go to data services. So what I'm going to do is select data, connect to PHP. I'm going to browse for my PHP class in my Hello World Flex debug. Double click on it. And it's determined that it's got the service name time, services time, value objects, a bunch of stuff you don't have to worry about. So what this is doing here now, when I hit next, is it's going to be using this to actually do the introspection on there. The gateway that Flash Builder uses is based off of ZenDMF. So I'll click on OK, and basically all this is doing is it's copying Zen Framework into that directory, using it to execute. So when it's executed the first time, what this has done is it's found the getTime object, or the getTime method in the time object. So we'll click finish, and now it's doing create service, and now we see our getTime in there. One of the cool things that we can do within Flash Builder, and this is something you can do similarly to the Web Services Explorer in Zen Studio, is I can right click on there, click on test operation, move this over just a little bit. So you get time, I click on test, and we see that the response is a string, and we see our value that has been placed in there. So this is coming from PHP now, so we've been able to test our service, and it's actually able to pull that in. But right now it's kind of useless because it doesn't actually go anywhere.